On the morning of December 4th, 1997, a cold wind blew through the outskirts of Jefferson County, Missouri, as a young girl was seen walking barefoot down a dirt road, dressed in nothing but flannel pajamas soaked in blood and mud. Her name was Amber Daniels. She was 10 years old. Just hours earlier, Amber had been kidnapped from her home by a man dressed as Santa Claus. But this wasn't a case of abduction gone wrong. It was the unraveling of something darker, something calculated, something personal. That night, what unfolded inside the Daniels home would come to be known as the Santa Claus killings. The most shocking part? Amber could have escaped sooner, but she didn't, because her two little sisters were still inside the house, and she refused to leave them behind. Watch to the end to see how a 10-year-old's courage unraveled one of the most disturbing cases in Missouri's history. It started like any ordinary December night. The Daniels house, tucked behind a row of snow-covered trees, was filled with the sound of Christmas music and the rustle of wrapping paper. Amber, 10, and her younger sisters, Jillian, 6, and Beth, 3, were helping her mom, Lacey, put up the last of the decorations. Their father, David Daniels, a quiet but kind mechanic, had just come back from work with hot cocoa and plastic candy canes. They were a simple, loving family. No enemies, no dark secrets, at least none that Amber knew of. Just before bedtime, a knock came at the front door. Amber remembers the sound. 3 polite raps, then a pause, then 2 more. Her mother opened the door to a man in a red Santa suit, holding a brown sack and smiling behind a thick white beard. "Ho, ho, ho! Merry early Christmas," he said. Lacey laughed. "I didn't know the fire department was doing Santa rounds this year." "I'm filling in. Thought I'd drop off a few toys early for the kids." Amber never found out whether her mother recognized him or not. She didn't get the chance. Because 30 minutes later, that Santa had a gun in his hand, and her parents were bleeding on the living room floor. The man tied Amber's hands first, then Jillian's, then Beth's. He made them sit in the kitchen, whispering threats in a low voice. Amber stared at her mother, who lay gasping, trying to speak. Her father wasn't moving. Blood stained the Christmas tree skirt. The man rummaged through drawers, collecting jewelry, documents, and car keys. But something felt off. He didn't seem interested in valuables. He wasn't rushing. He wasn't panicking. Then he took Jillian by the hand and told Amber to come along. He left Beth crying on the floor beside her mother's body. Amber hesitated. "Please, don't hurt her," she begged. "If you're a good girl," he said coldly, "maybe I won't." Amber followed him out into the snow. They got into a van. No plates, no windows. Amber looked back once. The house was still lit, as if nothing had happened, as if Christmas was still coming. He drove for hours. Amber remembers the silence. No music, no radio. Just Jillian's quiet sobs beside her. Eventually, they stopped at a remote cabin deep in the woods. He dragged the girls inside and locked the door. The place was filthy, mattresses on the floor, canned food stacked in corners, and children's toys scattered across the room like a bad memory. Amber recognized one of the toys. It wasn't hers. It had been in the news, linked to another girl who went missing 2 years ago. That's when she knew this man had done this before. She knew they wouldn't survive if she didn't do something. On the second night, after pretending to fall asleep, Amber quietly untied the knots around her wrists using a piece of broken toy plastic. She had watched him closely, noticed when he locked the door, noticed where he placed the keys. When the man went to the bathroom, Amber moved fast. She grabbed Jillian's hand and whispered, "We have to go, now." But Jillian froze. What about Beth? Her heart sank. Beth wasn't there. She hadn't made it out of the house. Jillian wouldn't leave. Amber faced a choice: stay and risk them all being killed, or run and find help. She made a decision no child should ever have to make. She kissed her sister's cheek, unlocked the door, and ran barefoot into the snow. A trucker found Amber wandering in the early morning light, shivering and bloody. At first, he thought she'd been in an accident. Then he noticed the rope burns on her wrists. The police were called immediately. Amber gave them everything: descriptions, locations, the van, the toy. She told them what had happened, what he had done. At first, they didn't believe her. A child's memory can be unreliable, they said. But she remembered everything, even the way his voice sounded under the mask. She remembered the tattoo on his wrist. By nightfall, a task force was assembled. When police found the cabin 2 days later, it was empty. But they found Jillian's coat, strands of Beth's hair, and traces of DNA belonging to multiple children, not just the Daniels girls. In the ash pile out back, they found bones, small ones. They also found a driver's license, not recent, not in his name, but enough to lead to someone who hadn't been seen in years. His real name was Carl Maynard, a former foster care worker who had vanished after being accused of inappropriate behavior toward children in the late 80s. Charges were dropped, the case disappeared. But Carl didn't. He had been using disguises, church costumes, mall Santa gigs, and neighborhood charity drives to pick out his victims. He knew how to manipulate families, how to vanish afterwards, how to leave just enough behind to confuse the case. Until Amber. Carl Maynard was arrested in Albuquerque, New Mexico, 3 weeks later after police traced a rental storage unit tied to him. Inside, they found more costumes, keepsakes, and a list of names. At least 6 were confirmed victims. 3 had never been found. Amber, then only 11, testified in court, calm, clear, unshaken. Her words stunned the room. He said if I was quiet, he'd let my sister go. He didn't. Carl was sentenced to 6 consecutive life sentences without parole. And yet, Amber didn't stop there. Amber Daniels became an advocate for child survivors. She pushed for tougher vetting laws on people working with children. She worked with investigators to reopen old cases with similar signatures. Her interviews helped identify another 2 victims from a different state. Jillian survived and now works in trauma therapy. Beth's body was never found, but Amber visits a memorial in her name every year. The Daniels home is gone now, torn down years later after no one could bear to live there. In its place is a park with a plaque that reads, "In memory of love, loss, and the bravery of one little girl who ran through the snow to save others." What happened that December was horrific, but Amber Daniels turned her pain into purpose. Her escape didn't just save her life. It ended a monster's cycle of violence. In the end, it wasn't the police, it wasn't forensic science, it wasn't luck. It was a 10-year-old girl, in pajamas, standing barefoot in the snow, choosing courage over fear. Thank you for watching. If you want more chilling true crime stories that highlight not just horror, but also hope, make sure to subscribe and share this video. Amber's story is one we should never forget.